Ah. You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we're talking about the action horror film War... See, I thought you said War of the Worlds, but now here it says World War Z, so, I guess no episode this week. You know what? No, we're gonna make it work. You're gonna talk about all your notes for World War Z, I'm gonna talk all my notes for War of the Worlds, and we'll just see if they mesh together, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you know what? We've never done that before, so we can try it and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. It could be like one of those mashups you see on YouTube that's really cool and awesome, or it could be a shit show. So yeah. I guess it's up to us on how it goes.
Right. Let's attempt that. Or I can go back in time really quick with this magical button that I found and have watched and taken notes on the right movie, and then we can do this again. So
okay, I think that's the best option.
All right, let's try that one. All right, so this episode we are talking about the action horror film World War Z, directed by Marc Forster and released June 21st, 2013.
Yes, 11 years ago. I can't believe it's been 11 years since this movie came out. I will say this, Pake, if it was me who had watched War of the Worlds instead of World War Z.
Who would do that?
I wouldn't need to go back and watch it again because I've seen World War Z so many times that I really didn't need to watch it this time, but I did, so it was fresh. But I've seen it so many times that, yeah, there's no point.
I don't think I have seen this one since I saw it in theaters. When it came out in 2013. I think I saw it because I remember going and seeing it with some friends in theaters. I don't think I've ever watched it at home since then. Like, this might be my first rewatch of it in 11 years.
Oh my gosh.
I remembered most everything about it. It sticks with me for a lot of reasons. Especially one that, like, is on, like, the higher echelon of, like, movie moments for me. But for a very Pake reason. But we'll get to that when I get to it.
I'm wondering what it is and thinking that I might know. And if it's what I think it is, oh my goodness, of course it's...
Yeah.
Of course you would love that.
Yeah.
Of course you would. It's a totally Pake thing.
Yeah. So we'll get to it at a point, and then you'll see if you're right. You probably are. You know me well enough at this point.
I do.
But
I do. I think it's interesting because this movie, if you look at the book that it's based on, it really isn't anything like the book at all.
No, it's... Because I even remember, because I had read the book, which I got to read. When I first read World War Z, I was on a, like, screened-in porch on a cabin on an island with, like, no electricity, no power for, like, a whole week, and it was just, like, off the grid, out in nature, and I just got to sit out there and read. And I don't know, it added to it for sure. It really did. But
did you feel cut off from the world? And that
I did. So it, like, helped a little bit, where you're just like, oh yeah, like I am in, like, this weird, like, there were no zombies. There are bears out there. I didn't see any, luckily, but yeah, no zombies to deal with. But it was very much like kind of living in that world, reading the book while I was, like, off the grid, disconnected from technology and whatever was going on in the world for a little while. It was kind of cool.
I can't imagine you being cut off from technology. I know that I wouldn't do very well if I was cut off from technology.
Yeah.
It
was a lot of fun. And then the movie came out after, and I was like, how are they going to make a movie out of that? Because it's the book, the, like, Max Brooks World War Z is very just like pieces of journalism and stories and
interviews
and firsthand, all thrown together. It's almost kind of like, which I guess in a way is like what, like, Jerry Lane, the character that Brad Pitt plays here. he would have been the guy that was going around collecting these stories. Or at least he would have been the kind of, like, it would have been a him type. Maybe him not specifically, because he's not leaving his family ever again after the end of this movie, I don't think.
No.
But like this, like,
so.
UN investigator, journalist, like, that's kind of what it would be. So at least they kind of pulled from that and then just took it in a very different direction. But there's little hints and little glimmers of, like, things that are mentioned in those interviews in the books that they kind of threw in or hinted at. But
yeah.
The book doesn't make a linear, like, movie, so they just kind of took it as inspiration and then made a zombie movie and slapped the name World War Z on it. But there's some inspiration.
I really would love for them to make a TV series from the content of the book. Like an anthology.
Yeah, you can just, every episode is just a different story, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. I think it would be different than what we've seen as far as the undead or the dead on TV. I think it would present this book the way that most of the fans of the book would be happy with. Originally, they tried. Like, the original script, they were trying to present a story where a person went around collecting these stories.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't have enough punch, I guess.
Yeah.
I just wish they'd called this something else. Because I thought it was a great movie. There were a lot of things to like about it. However, you can't reconcile the title and the movie because the book and the movie don't exist
mm-hmm.
in the same world. It's just, there's no continuity. It doesn't work.
Right.
You can't look at it as the same thing.
No. Now, of course, with a name like Brad Pitt attached to it and, like, the popularity it got, I'm sure there's a large percentage of the audience of this movie that had no idea it even had a book counterpart or anything. Yeah. And so, at least with that, the name makes sense to the degree. It's like, they mentioned plenty of times throughout the movie that it is a global thing. The whole world is dealing with this. And then the very ending of the movie, obviously, is kind of just... The whole movie's kind of a prequel for the book, in a way, because then it sets up, like, well, now we're in a place where, like, we know what we're dealing with, we know what the threat is, but there's a lot that we still have to do to, like, clean up where most of the world's population has turned into zombies at this point. Cities are gone and overrun. So there's still a war that needs to happen. So, I mean, it sets it up.
You have to clean things up.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing a lot of cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. It's interesting because recently I read another book called Fantastic Land. It's by Mike Bakoven. It's done in a similar style. These survivors took refuge from a hurricane in an amusement park.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were people that worked there and others were like guests, but it was mostly people that worked there. And it's talking to them about the aftermath because, as you can imagine, it devolved very quickly, and it became a mess. It's a really good book, and it's done in a similar way, and I like it, and I would like to see them try to do a movie, but I'm just not sure they can do it the right way.
Yeah, it's a format that doesn't really lend itself to cinema too well.
It doesn't, and sometimes what lives in your head from reading the book is better than if they made it a movie. Because you create, pictures of what you think it should be.
Yeah. Well, I do that while reading any book. Even a book that I've seen the movie first. Like right now, because I'm almost done. I have like 7 chapters left because I take it slowly, but I'm almost done on my run through The Shining. And even though I've seen The Shining and I know everything about it, I know the people behind it, I can't help but like cast different people in my head. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because a lot of times I will cast actual actors and people that I know, like in my own little headcanon of while reading the book. So maybe I'm the only person that does that. If anybody else does that, welcome weird people that do things, because I'm weird about stuff like that. But like, and it's not like, I think I should know. It's like, I read the lines and a voice pops in my head and I'm like, okay, that's who's cast in this role. Like, it just happens. And sometimes it feels weird, but, so my Shining head cast that just appeared, Matthew McConaughey is Jack, and Dick Halloran is played by Coleman Domingo, and I like it. So, you know.
Okay, I could see Coleman Domingo as a Dick Halloran. I could. I don't know about Matthew McConaughey as Jack.
He's a little older for Jack, so it's kind of like, it does weird things with time, because it's like a younger McConaughey. With like current Coleman Domingo, and only in my brain with book casting does that make sense, and it can work, but it does, and I do.
I love that. Someday we should do an episode on a book that we love that doesn't have a movie, and who we'd cast
fan
in the
cast
roles.
stuff.
Yeah, that could be fun. Well, we'll get started with a few of the production notes, like usual. Was filmed in Wales, Scotland, England, and Malta. Was inspired by the novel of the same name we just talked about by Max Brooks. He wrote the book, and it came out in 2006. Paramount and Brad Pitt's company Plan B won what turned out to be a 6-figure bidding war for the rights to World War Z, and they happened to be up against Warner Brothers and Leonardo DiCaprio's company Appian Way. The budget was between $190 and $269 million, depending on what source you looked at. It grossed $540.5 million worldwide. It's 116 minutes. Pake, bring us a synopsis. I hope that you watched the uncut version, the unrated uncut version, because that's what I watched.
Maybe. Whatever was on Plex. All right. Former United Nations employee Jerry Lane traverses the world in a race against time to stop a zombie pandemic that is toppling armies and governments and threatens to destroy humanity itself.
Okay, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain works really fast, Pake.
Yeah, I totally just came up with that all on my own, and it had nothing to do with a certain database of movies on the internet.
I know, but I'm wondering why you don't use ChatGPT, because they do come up with some clever things on there. AI can be your friend.
Sometimes.
Or not.
You know what? I might start doing that just to see, like, what ChatGPT, and then I'll just pass it off as my own. No, I will give credit to the robot overlords that they deserve. But yeah, no, but maybe just like find some more like clever ones that, yeah. I don't know. I'll play with it. But for now, we're just sticking with the good old IMDb because it's rarely done me wrong. There have been a few times that I'm like, that's just terrible. But but rarely had done me wrong.
But you can at least use it as a starting point and then rewrite it to meet your needs.
Yeah.
So
we'll see that. Maybe.
Watching this movie got me to thinking, if this were to happen, where would I go? And the thing is, I've known where I would go, but I have a funny little story about it because my sister has a lake house, and I think I've mentioned it before, and we were out there for a holiday, and we were talking about The Walking Dead and zombies and stuff, and my sister said, well, if any of that happens, I'm coming to your house. And I'm like, no, we're all coming here, because you're on a lake house, it's on a dead-end road that nobody goes on unless they live here. I feel like you've got the perfect place. So no, we'll all come to your house if something happens. Pake, what about you?
I have no idea. I mean, I would want to get out of where I live because an apartment complex is a terrible place, as we have seen.
Yes.
Even in this movie. We don't want to do that.
It's not good.
I mean, my dad's house is only like 5 minutes down the road, but it's more secluded. I mean, not super. I mean, there is like a middle school like in the little bit behind his house, so it's not like super secluded.
Are you thinking a Cooties type adventure?
Oh God, we don't want that. No, but
or Little Monsters.
Depends on what time of the year. Like if it's like during the school year, then no, nowhere near that. But like, what if it's during the summer and there's nobody at the school? The school could be a good place to hold up.
Yes, it could. Yeah, it totally could. Yeah, it was just a question that popped in my head, and I thought, I'm going to ask you what you think. But that's what I've been saying, is that we'd go hold up at my sister's lake house. Seems like a good place. I guess we should get started, though, talking about this movie. I'm excited to talk about it. It's kind of strange that we haven't recorded an episode on this before now. I feel like we should have. And yet we didn't. So it's totally time.
Definitely. Yeah, so we'll do what we usually do as far as kind of character stuff. But with this movie, it really is. It follows Brad Pitt's Jerry Lane, and he kind of goes place to place and meets a different cast of characters in every place that he goes, and you get a little bit of story here, a little bit of story there. So he really is the driving force and the center character that everything goes around. So he's really the only one that I have specific notes on, but then I have a lot of other side notes about other little characters, like 2 or 3 notes about this person here, or that person here, or the zombies or certain situations. So it'll be different. So I'm like, we'll go by character, but it's like, no, we're going to go by Jerry, and then I'll throw in other notes as we go along the way, and then I'll have a bunch of crap to get to at the end of that too, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot in this movie to digest. There were some cool things, though. There were things I really love about it. And it's one of those movies that I'll put on in the background because I know that I can keep up with what's going on but not have to focus too hard because I know it so well. And when you've seen it as many times as I have, it's really easy to just know what's happening depending on where they are.
Yeah. So, I was like, oh, Brad Pitt starring in a zombie movie. How's that going to go? And then it's like, all right, family life. And then bam, an immediate high-intensity action sequence featuring all kinds of car stunts. I was like, yep, no, that makes sense.
Of course it does, right?
Yes. This is what a Brad Pitt zombie movie looks like. Got it, yeah.
And if you ever needed to know, you now are able to keep up with it because, yeah. I was really pleased with how the movie turned out, even though it didn't match the book, because I just thought it was a good zombie movie.
Yeah, it's honestly a really good movie. I have this note way later, but that's fine. Just thinking about it, it's like it's a movie that kind of tries to make itself or make the zombie genre a little bit more mainstream. Where it's like a little more scientific and more on the drama versus the zombies, although there are some big action sequences with the zombies. But it's not trying to be Dawn of the Dead or Zombieland or even The Walking Dead. It's trying to be a action movie that's also more serious movie with high, A-list actors. That also is a zombie movie, and they wanted to do something a little different. But even though it is that, I noticed that they make a lot of nods and references to kitschy zombie roots, things that are definitely there. I mean, a lot of your typical oh yeah, and then this would happen, and then this would happen. You got to have a zombie movie where this happens.
You mean of course there's a zombie in the plane, in the bathroom on the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that where it's okay, everything's calmed down, and then one thing's going to set a chain reaction off. Or somebody gets bitten, and he has the idea to chop her arm off, and then it's let's see if that helps. And it does, but that's those little things are in everything that I always get nodded to. But even the small things, when they're going into B-Wing at the World Health Organization building, and it's arming themselves with an axe, a baseball bat, and a crowbar. It's how much more stereotypical zombie movie can you get,
Exactly. There were those callbacks. But I feel if you weren't a zombie fan and you're just a fan of Brad Pitt and you've got pulled into this movie, it's still a really fun watch because the action is good. The way that they put it together. I don't want to say too much, but there were things in here that I love, and when I see it outside of my house, if I'm at the bar doing trivia and I see something on the screen, different scenes from this movie take me right back in, and I know exactly where they are and what they're doing because they're good and fun and well done.
Yeah. Yeah, so everything, I mean, as zombie movies tend to do, everything just goes haywire so fast. It's chaos. Everything happens very quickly. The zombies don't take very long to turn. 12 seconds. And the train's in the station.
Thank you, Subway Sam, for helping us understand that.
Yeah, that was a really cool way of doing that. By the way, with the toy counting,
too.
That. I was I really like that. The way that was edited and shot. It's like, that's clever.
It's supposed to be a child's toy to comfort the child. Like it's one of those comforts that a kid has. Only this time it was used in a way to determine, well, if Brad Pitt should jump off a building.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To me, this movie, there was a lot of chaos that spread very quickly, like you were talking about. Well, they're in the middle of the city driving to what looks like they're going to have a family fun day. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you know, a cop drives by and rips their side mirror off. Doesn't bother to stop. Just keeps going. And traffic is stopped and people are just hanging out. Nobody really knows what's going on. And then it goes off the rails at that point.
Yeah, like I said, it's just very quick. Everything happens so fast. And then, but not even the zombies. Like, I noticed, they get out of there. They manage to somehow, he drives action sequence, get out of the city, get more out to the country.
In a Winnebago.
Yeah. They get to Jersey, which, zombies or Jersey, which is worse. No, I've been to New Jersey. It's fine. I enjoy Jersey. Okay. No, but like you see, like they get there and they're at this like grocery store and stuff there. And it's like, it took hours at absolute most for people to resort to their worst possible selves in that store. Like,
we've seen movies like this before where things devolve.
I know, like people coming in with guns and looting and people trying to assault Karen. And it's like all this. And it's like, it literally has been, like I said, hours at most.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd say that's way too soon, but I don't know. I live in the South, so I kind of believe it. At least the younger guy that was in the pharmacy seemed to be a good guy. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know who he was. Did he shoot the person that was dead on the floor?
I know, it's kind of confusing. It's like, what, did he come in and was killing people? Or was like that in was he the pharmacist who was trying to like leave and then killed somebody in self-defense and then he was able to help Jerry? Like, it's not very clear, but at least maybe he said he had a kid of his own, and just seeing Jerry with his daughter, kind of his heart lightened up, and he was like, "Here, let me make sure to take care of you."
Yeah, these are things that my daughter, this always helps my kids, and I wondered if he was someone that worked at the store and was just trying to guard things. I'm thinking, I don't know, buddy, you've got multiple threats coming. You've got the people in the store now with guns. And then you also have the zombies out running the streets. So I don't know how you think this is going to turn out.
No. And then we go from insanely dangerous, deadly grocery store to let's hide out in insanely dangerous, deadly apartment building. Like, we're going to go from one to the next.
Yeah, that's what got me thinking about where would I go, because I just think an apartment building,
it's not great. And even they try to like lock themselves in to go up the stairs. It's like, don't even think about all the like people in all the like apartments that are already in there. But that hose did not hold at all.
No.
So it really wasn't too great. But yeah, they head in this apartment building for temporary safety until the UN people with Terry? That
Thierry.
guy?
Thierry. Yeah, Terry.
Whenever he can get to them.
Thierry. Yeah, Terry. Yeah.
But when the UN can send men to go pick them up in that helicopter, so they're going to have to spend this night here in the apartment building, which would have been just awful if it wasn't for this unnamed Hispanic family with Tomas, the son, who can translate for them, which... Man, Tommy, great kid.
My gosh. He became the luckiest kid. Like, really, the situation went to hell in a handbasket for him. I mean, you have little Corinne standing outside their door saying, "Let me in, let me in, let me in." And they finally open the door and by the time Karen and Jerry get there, the doors open, they let them in, and feed them and they're taking care of them. I mean, it's very nice what they're doing. You know, that's not what you find often in movies like this. People are just, it seems like so quickly we have more people like the ones looting the store than, you know, the decent people. It's just not showcased as much in movies. It's always, we see the people that are crazed and running around like chickens with their heads cut off and just not sure what they're, you know, just going wild.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this family, unnamed, because I did try to find their name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just Tomas and then Tomas's father and Tomas's mother. That's where it's credited. So you're like, okay. We really only care about Tomas. I get it.
And Jerry tries to get them to go with him. Like, he's like, you can't stay in the same... movement is life. Like, you need to go. And even Tomas's mother tries to get her husband to go. And he just is like, well, go where? Mm-hmm. You know, where are we going to go? Well, off the side of a building?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bullet to the head?
Yeah. That's what you're into.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it didn't work out too well for them. Except Tomas, again, has his super badass moment where he's the one who's able to come in and save Jerry and really save himself by doing that, but comes in with the gun. Where did he get the gun?
I don't know. Do you think his father said, here, take this and go?
Could have.
I can't imagine that that's what he did.
I don't
but
know.
we only get that little glimpse of, like, banging on the door.
Yeah.
On the apartments, and so you know that they're not going to be safe there.
Yeah.
The next time we see the parents, the father is one of the first Zeds coming through the door.
Yep.
And then the mother is the one that's kicked off the helicopter.
Yeah.
At the end. So, you know, Tommy makes it and has new parents, evidently, you know,
just
because...
Like, congratulations, Jerry, you have a son. Just automatically, like, you're stuck with him. Good. There you go. Yeah, which, I mean, hey, he's a great kid. It's a good, just random adoption out of nowhere. I'm like, you know what? Cool.
But he's a good kid.
He is. He's great. So, take him. He's fine.
You know,
there's a lot worse ones that you could get stuck with. So, you know, I'll take
Rachel was upset and crying, and he went and comforted her. Like, she wasn't sleeping where she was supposed to be, and Jerry was looking for her, and he finally found her, and Tommy was with her, you know, just, I think, being a comfort.
Yeah.
And so you could tell this is a good kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the 12 seconds, because Jerry was ready to just jump off the roof if the virus spread by mouth.
Yeah.
Luckily, this isn't 28 days, so we'll be fine.
Yes, thankfully. Which, oh my gosh, 28 days later, can we just say, Cillian Murphy, star of that film, Oscar winner.
Yeah, best actor. Yeah, because I remember when we covered 28 Days, we were talking about Oppenheimer, but this was before nominations and stuff, but I think we were talking then, it's like, that was likely to get Oscar nominations and wins and stuff, and we're recording this after the Oscars, and yeah, Oppenheimer won Best Picture, and Cillian Murphy took Best Actor, so yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Sorry for that little side combo, but, you know. It's cool when you see someone who gets, you know, some of their start came from horror, and then they end up getting an Oscar because, you know, you don't always expect that to happen. So I thought it was super cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, talking about Coleman Domingo earlier, he was also nominated in that same category for Best Actor, so good for him.
I know.
Anyway,
terrible show called Fear the Walking Dead.
Right.
Man. Okay, so stop that.
Back to this.
Let's go back to World War Z.
Yeah, so the helicopter, they get there, they head to this aircraft carrier, the UN's got them. Because, again, we talked about a little bit, I mentioned that Jerry was this, like, top UN investigator. He was on the ground in a lot of war zones and different spots, so he's kind of equipped for this, in a way, as much as someone can be. Nobody's really fully equipped for this, but,
no,
you know, he's but his background gives him at least some kind of advantage. And then he's practically forced by the UN to help Dr. Fossbach and this team find any answers on whatever they can find. Basically, it's just like, we're just going to send you out there and you got to come back with some kind of answers. He doesn't want to do it. He's like, I left this job to be with my family, but the UN's able to use his family as leverage, basically saying, like, if you don't help, then you and your family are non-essential personnel and your spots on the ship will be given to somebody else, which is kind of shitty, but also, under these circumstances, fair.
Fair. It is incredibly fair. I mean, earlier, when Terry calls him and says, I need you, if we pick you up, I need you to be back. And he's like, no. But then he changes his tune because he wants to save his family, not realizing that this is the direction they'll go. And just in his conversation with Karen, you get that his time at the UN took a lot out of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why he had retired or left that job. We don't really ever find out why. I will say this, I think he's incredibly good at his job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Definitely, he's good at getting things done and putting things together.
I thought it was interesting, the doctor, who is a very young doctor, said Mother Nature is a serial killer.
I love that speech, honestly.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, he's a really cool character, and I hope he sticks around for a really long time and has lots to do in this movie.
Yes. Until he slips, he was walking off the plane, heard the zombies and tried to run back on the plane, slipped, and shot himself in the head.
And this is the moment that I was talking about.
Exactly. I knew it was.
It's terrible, but also hilarious. It's my favorite swerve and, like, complete surprise moment of any movie, I think. Yeah, this Dr. Fastbach, which played by Elias Gable, also mostly known as, the dude from Scorpion.
Yes. Why is that on my brain today as a reminder? Oh, wait. I know why. Ben just added it to... Yeah.
But yeah, so this guy is very possibly, like, the key to answering and stopping this whole thing. So he trips and shoots himself in the head before he even makes it to his destination. It's just dark humor. Like, I don't know if they even meant it to be, but it cracked me up. And again, I remember vividly seeing this movie in theaters, even with it being 11 years ago. I will always remember just this collective, like, gasp and shock from the audience. Like, oh! And it's like, of course they just did that. Like,
because it just reminds you that with all the seriousness going on, that something as simple as slipping can take a variable out of the equation, and in the most ridiculous way.
It's like this whole thing is like the whole reason Jerry's there and all these soldiers are there. This is the guy we have to protect. He's the key, and bam! Oh, fuck.
Yep.
Well.
Exactly.
Back to square one, I guess. What do we do?
Yeah, it's kind of a mess. Jerry has to try to figure out where to pivot to because there's no doctor with him. But he does learn quite a bit, and we get to see David Morse in one of the most bizarre roles I've ever seen him in, which is of the gun seller, or the ex-CIA guy that was basically arrested and put there for selling guns. And he's telling all the stories that, of the different things. And he also learns, even before that, he learns from Captain Speak and his team that, well, we don't really know where it started, but this is kind of what happened here. He also gets that first glimpse into what could be an idea of how to stop people getting attacked. He gets that very first glimpse, and I thought it was cool how they shot it with that light coming down on Ellis, was his name.
Yeah.
Which, did you recognize him?
Yeah, that is Mikhail Hausman.
Yes.
Which yeah, I've got that. I've got a lot of just like cast notes in here. Yeah, Mikhail Hausman, Ellis there, because yeah, he was in Game of Thrones. He was the original. Oh no, he was the second Dario Naharis. He was
the best Dario.
He was the one that replaced Ed Skeen.
Yes.
Which is funny because then the Netflix, the Rebel Moon, that movie that came out late last year or whatever, stars both of them aside each other, like as like against each other, but they're on like opposite sides. Ed Skeen is the villain in that movie, but it's funny. It's like, oh, Dario Naharis versus Dario Naharis. Got it. Like, it's kind of like
Ed Skeen plays such a great villain anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he should always be a villain. I think that's why he often plays the villain in films.
Yeah, but I've seen Hausman in other stuff because he was also in a Haunting of Hill House as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was in Orphan Black as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I knew him from.
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, there's something of like he's got at first it's like an injury, but no, like there's like some kind of like disease or sickness that he has that has like messed with his like muscles and like or his leg. You know, there's like some kind of issue there. And yeah, so you see that, and then you remember the homeless guy that's outside the apartment building when they go in, and all the zombies just bypass him.
Yep.
And then there's after that when they get to Jerusalem, and it's Jerry noticing the swarm just bypassing. There's this older man when they first jump the wall, and then the boy later on. And it's just like he's putting all those pieces together. And he's like, that weakness that Fastbach was talking about. It's like, there might be something there. And I'm putting these pieces together.
It's things that you don't think about. You know, what you think is the most brutal part of the virus is the chink in its armor.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he learns later from Jurgen, who is the Mossad agent in Jerusalem, he said all you can do is find a way to hide. And it all starts to come together for him in his head, like, oh, camouflage.
Yeah, I was going to go John Cena on this thing. You can't see me.
You can't see me. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, going into Jerusalem, which it's very Rick Grimes of him to show up in a place that seems to have everything together just to watch it all go to hell.
Why does that always happen? Like, it just seems... I mean, you know what, though? Jerry has that going on everywhere, because look at South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, Karen called him at the most ridiculous time.
I know, it's funny when he calls her back later and she's like, I tried calling you. You almost be like, yeah, no, you got a bunch of people killed. Good job.
Yes. Yes, you did. Including Captain Speak, who seemed like a good guy.
He seemed, yes. Speak is very much, to me, your classic douchey soldier bro.
Oh, okay.
Who is also extremely good at his job as a soldier and a leader.
Yeah. And
then when he gets bit, he just takes himself out, like, no qualms about it, really. He's like, well, that's what we gotta do for the team, for my men. All right.
They were ready to do it, though. I mean, they were ready. They're like, we can see you. We've got eyes on you, Cap. And he's just like, no, not gonna be a Zeke. And he shoots himself in the head, and that's it.
Yep.
And then we see some sort of explosion happen there. Not long after.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know what happened. They don't really say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things are going to hell everywhere.
They are. It's madness.
But yeah, so he's there in Jerusalem, and the zombies all just spill over the wall. Absolute mayhem, chaos. It's like, well, gotta get out of there. He meets up with this soldier there, part of the Israeli army, Sagan.
Sagan.
And then she's like the kind of the trope of like the classical chop off the limb of someone who's been bitten to save him, and it works. But I like that he's like the other soldiers around, like ready to shoot her if she starts freaking out, and he's like counting to 12, and then he's like, she's good, let's go.
She's good, let's go. And she just keeps going. I mean, how tough is she to deal with that? She's like, oh my God. She must have been thinking, oh my God, he cut my arm off and I'm going to bleed to death. but I'm not going to turn into a Zed. Okay, I'm going to go with him on this journey wherever we're going.
Yeah. Why did he bring her on the plane?
I have no idea.
That's one of the big questions that I'm like...
Well, okay, so Jurgen told her and the others to get him to his plane.
Yeah, but then he leaves all the other soldiers behind out there on the runway and takes the one who's injured and missing an arm and still might turn because we don't actually know how this works. It seems weird to me. I
don't know, but I liked her character, so I was happy he did. But I will say this about Sagan. She got the memo of shooting them in the head. Because I feel like they were not very good shots with those guns. They were just basically aimlessly shooting most of the time, some of them. Mm-hmm. And she got the memo. You shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
Her team of people were good.
Captain Speak having a line about that, though, where he says, don't bother about the head. If you don't have the time to aim for the head, it's better to just, like... He's
take the legs out.
Legs and kneecaps work just as good as long as they're on the ground.
Yeah. That seems like a smart move.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so they're on the plane, and of course, as you mentioned, we're going to get the close quarters airplane zombie spread. Of course it's going to happen.
Train to Busan on the airplane.
Right. It's like stacking up the... I was like, that was a good idea until that guy ruined it. But honestly, if you think about it, it's like, how long would that idea really have lasted?
You know what? That idea worked in Society of the Snow. Blocking up the cold from coming in. It's
not going to work as well against a horde of zombies in a plane.
And we've already seen them climb up over the wall.
Mm-hmm. Those zombies want first class, and they're going to get it.
Yep. Those zombies might want first class, but they don't want to pay first class prices.
Nope. Yeah, so they decide, watching just the mayhem happen and people getting taken out, like Jerry just makes the call that the plane is a lost cause, blows a hole in the side, and buckles him and Sagan in. Still not sure why he brought her, but yeah, we'll do that. Then the crash landing is not very smooth, very heavy on the crash part of the equation. And yeah, that's kind of... He's presumed dead. Everybody's presumed dead. Somehow, Sagan is fine. Like, seems practically unharmed. So I guess it's a good thing that he brought her along, because she's able to get him safely to...
I think that Sagan had already had enough trauma in this movie.
Yeah.
With the arms, so they gave her a pass on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was funny when they were trying to get on the plane. I mean, it was basically the police that were able to get the plane to stop to let them on. And I just thought Jerry's got one of those express passes like you would get in The Amazing Race or something to be able to get on there and go to the next destination. Only no one knows what the destination is because the pilots don't even know at that point where they're going. They're going somewhere. They
just
know they can't
from
stay
there.
here.
Away from there. Where are we going? Elsewhere.
Not here.
Which, again, speaking of casting stuff, let me find it. The Belarus Airways pilot. Did you recognize who that was?
I recognize
that he hands the sat phone to, and without Googling it while you're on here.
I'm not Googling it, Pake.
Or IMDbing it.
I'm not. I did, but I don't know who it was. Who was
so that
it?
That is Nikola Jericho, who is mostly known, or really only known by me, as playing another pilot in a favorite show of mine. He played Yuri in Stranger Things, the Russian pilot who gets... I don't want to spoil things for Stranger Things people too much, but there's a whole... big long storyline with needing a pilot in Russia, and that is Yuri, and that's who that was.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. And I should have known more. He looked familiar.
Yeah. Like, the second he popped up, I was like, I know who that is. I should have recognized him. I did have to go to IMDb to figure it out. I was like, he looks familiar, and then I was like, oh, it's Yuri. Of course. Yeah. Of course it is.
That wasn't the last person that popped up. That
no, there's a number
familiar,
of them.
for sure.
Let's see. I've got a few. Like while we're on there, I mean, let's see. I'll just go ahead and like little casting things. I said, well, nice to see you, Jack Shephard. I mean, Matthew Fox.
Can I tell you that he was supposed to have a much bigger role?
I figure because this is like post Lost, so
yes,
it was weird for him to be such a side character after Lost. So I believe that.
Okay, so he has this small role. There were more things that were shot, there was in the original storyline that they decided to scrap. Jerry ends up in Russia, and his cell phone's taken away, and Karen is put in a refugee camp with the kids. And when Jerry finally contacts Karen after this, long period of time has gone by, she has reluctantly started an affair with Matthew Fox's character. And then there's a whole thing that goes on with that too, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with all that.
I'm okay with it because I don't want any of that.
No.
In this
now,
movie.
the fact that it means less Matthew Fox in this movie is kind of weird. Because again,
yeah,
said seeing him cast, and it's like this is after Lost ended, and he was household name for a lot of people. So for him to be just this like unnamed parajumper character in the movie is odd. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah. Also, on the aircraft carrier, did you notice one of the soldiers that I think you only saw him twice in the background? But one of the soldiers, because this, again, 11 years ago, he was not known and not as big as he is now, but Kingsley Ben-Adir was one of the soldiers on the aircraft carrier. Which I noticed him right away because he's been very big right now, seeing him in a lot of things. Secret Invasion, Barbie, and he is right now starring in the Bob Marley biopic as Bob Marley. He's playing Bob Marley in the biopic. So, yeah.
I have not seen that one yet. I need to see it. I've heard it's good.
So he's one of those guys who's like really been blowing up lately. So I immediately noticed him and be like, that's crazy that he was like background soldier number 43. He's just, that's not actually what he was just an uncredited like captain or something. But like, yeah, it was just to see him and go, Kingsley Ben-Adir. It's like, how crazy that in 11 years his career has skyrocketed past extra on the aircraft carrier.
Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about Ruth Negga?
Yep. Ruth Negga as well. She is one of the doctors at the World Health Organization.
Yes.
She's done numerous things after this as well, all kinds of great movies and TV roles, but she will always be my tulip.
Yes, from Preacher. So great. Yeah, I saw her even before this in Love Hate, which also starred Robert Sheehan, and she was also in Misfits.
Yeah, and then speaking of the World Health Organization, of course, Peter Capaldi as the doctor that fixed up Jerry at the World Health Organization.
He was kind of creepy, though.
So, but what I said, Peter Capaldi as a doctor at the World Health Organization, so that makes him a doctor of who?
Well, he was credited as WHO doctor.
Yeah.
And 2 months after this movie came out, BBC announced that he was going to be Doctor Who. So it's kind of
all because of Brad Pitt.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen him in a bunch of things too. He was great on Torchwood, Children of Earth. Yeah, very, very good in that one. That was a disturbing season of that show for me. It's very difficult to watch. I think
I think that's all that I have for the other ones. And then, yeah, the kid who played Tomas, older now.
Oh.
He was in that Mr. Iglesias show on Netflix with Gabriel Iglesias that I watched 3 episodes of and went, nah, I don't care anymore.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah, Tommy was great.
But yeah, sidetracked on but yeah, there's a lot of fun little side casting of people who have gone on to do bigger things after, or just kind of like, that person. That's
yeah,
fun.
It's cool because you never really knew when someone was going to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're watching it. Oh, wow. Yeah, it was very cool to see.
And then I mentioned, after the crash, Jerry is presumed dead, and so his family gets kicked right off the aircraft carrier.
In less than 2 days.
I was like, that's cold.
Less than 2 days after he was presumed dead, they were already kicking them off the plane.
Yeah, I was like, that's cold. And then they sent them to Nova Scotia. That's colder.
Yep. Having been to Nova Scotia, and its climate is very much like it is in the state of Maine, yes, it's definitely colder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we talked about once they're at the WHO, World Health Organization, it's where Jerry really puts together.
It sounds like you were going to say World Horror Organization.
That's the WWO. Very, very different organization.
Oh,
it was going to be in the sequel, but then it hasn't. It got canceled.
We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah, no, but while they're there, he puts together that, yeah, all of these people that he's seen the zombies ignore have some kind of, like, terminal or debilitating disease or sickness. Mm-hmm. It seems like, and...
So he needs a deadly pathogen with high mortality rate, but curable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it leads to quite the experiment of purposely infecting people with one disease to make them undesired by another. It's a great plan. The only thing that stands in the way is dun 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 B-Wing.
It takes me back to The Walking Dead and how Rick and Glenn slathered themselves with zombie guts and walked out into the zombies, and it's like camouflage.
Yeah.
This is a much cleaner camouflage.
Well, do you call meningitis clean?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Meningitis can't be washed off by rain, so at least there's that.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so they go in, I mentioned, like, the weapons, it's very classic cliche zombie kind of thing, and then the one other WHO doctor, the doctors of WHO, that he just keeps making as much noise as possible the whole time. I'm just like, oh my god, this fucking guy. He's like, let me step on this, let me kick this, let me hit this door with my crowbar, let me hit this filing cabinet, let me, okay, this is, it's like, why? Why'd that guy be the one to go? Take Capaldi with you. You're probably quieter.
Yeah, you do have to wonder. It's like some people just can't be quiet. It's just not possible.
Right. And then with Sagan, the gunshot, and I was like, well, it's all out of the bag now. Just run for your lives.
Yeah.
But then I like that Jerry taking that, like, very leadership, like, sacrificial role where he leads the pack of zombies away from the others so that they can get to the vault, and then they end up not anyway. So then he's got to circle back around and do it himself. Fine, I'll do it
Well,
myself.
Jerry, he'll take one for the team.
Yeah, and take all of them for the team.
For the team.
He's going to take all the vials. You get a deadly disease. You get a deadly disease. Everyone gets their very own deadly disease.
Except some of those deadly diseases were really deadly diseases, and there was no cure. And I know that the doctor that Ruth Nega played was concerned about him taking them out of a particular drawer.
Yeah. Well, and then he just, like, picks a virus at random and then I'm just going to go for it, which... I don't know. I was thinking of a much better idea, but my idea is very dependent on whether they can move the cameras from that room that they were in. Like, if they can change the way the cameras are looking. My idea would have been, because we see him writing stuff down, and it's not like he's, like, running out of time. He had plenty of time to, like, inject himself and sit there and, like, get sick and then leave. So you take the vials that you have and you write down the name of whatever the disease is on it on a paper and you hold it up to the camera and then the camera goes up and down for yes or side to side for no. Like, a little communication would have been nice.
Yeah. Work around the situation. Think outside the box.
Right.
Or outside the room you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. But he picked the right one, I guess. He opens the door and the zombie has no interest in him really and he walks out and grab a Pepsi and go for a walk. You've earned it, Jerry.
But he makes enough noise that the zombies all start going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was clever. That was thinking.
Yeah, and then kind of barrels down to the end of the movie. But yeah, the idea of the World Health Organization sending out a strain of meningitis for people to administer to themselves on purpose seems wild. I guess it's a much better thing than certain death and zombification, so there's that. But it's like, yeah, they have to send that out, and then do they also then have to turn around and send out the vaccine for meningitis? Or did they play around with that enough to
They probably
make it a strain that's not deadly, but like it has enough to camouflage from the zombies.
Yeah. I like the idea of the camouflaging. I think that was kind of clever.
Yeah, and then I mentioned like kind of then we get the tie-in with the title of the book and stuff is in Brad Pitt's voiceover there at the end is the war against the zombies that have taken over all these major cities and all over the world. That's where that begins. And so it's like, will we ever get a sequel movie to show any of that? I don't know. It's been announced and then confirmed and then pushed back and then canceled and then shelved so many times I've lost track. So
yeah. It's a bit of a problem. They were going to do it, then they weren't going to do it, then they canceled it in 2019. I'm not sure where it really is right now, but I kind of want it, but I kind of don't.
Because it was going to be David Fincher, too.
Yes. And David Fincher has a very distinct point of view in his movies. And so I think with Brad Pitt coming back to be Jerry Lane, I thought it had a lot of potential to be even bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie grossed over $500,000. That's really good.
Yeah. Especially for a zombie movie.
I know. It's not something
now,
that you
this
would
was
expect.
in the heyday of, 2013, so this was season 3 of The Walking Dead, where it was really picking up and zombie mania was really taking over a lot of people, so...
Oh my god.
It helped that, like, this movie was dropped literally in, like, the heyday of the era of zombies in pop culture.
Yeah. It continued it. I mean, we really got kickstarted with 28 Days Later and then Dawn of the Dead. That really, like, started it off. And then this was part of, like, the continued wave of interest, especially with The Walking Dead coming out.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Mr. Max Brooks, who wrote the book, really wanted to hate it. He wanted to hate this movie. He wanted it to suck. And then he went to see it, and it didn't suck.
Right.
And he didn't hate it. He thought he was going to hate the differences from the book. He was going to hate it because of that reason. However, it was because of the differences that he didn't hate it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny. He was okay with it, though. And that's that's really hard to do. Writers are, when you create something, whether it's a book or a movie or whatever, you put something that's a big part of yourself out into the world. And to think that someone's going to take that and turn it into a movie, but they may completely change everything in it.
Yeah.
That can be a little irritating. And so it could have gone a different way, but they did it in a way that, made it okay for Max Brooks.
Yeah, it's good. So I don't know, if I was like a writer of something, like an author of a book that was being adapted, I'd want to be involved in the movie, which I always like when I see like source material authors being involved. We were talking about this, funny enough, before recording, but it ties in.
Carey,
with Marc Carey, with The Girl with All the Gifts, because he wrote the book and the screenplay for then what would become the movie, like, simultaneously. So he had a big say in how the movie adaptation went, with enough changes to, like, make it work for cinema, but, like, he had his hand in that, and so he doesn't have to worry about somebody taking his baby and doing something crazy with it.
I know. I feel like you have to be involved, like, to take care of your baby. You don't want someone else to mistreat it or destroy it, so you want to be involved to keep it, to keep it safe. So that wasn't the case with this, and I think it turned out okay.
Yeah.
But I do think there is potential, if people look at the book, there could be an anthology-like TV series taking stories out of the book and recreating them.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'd like to see that happen sometime. Don't know if it ever will, but could be interesting.
Yeah, maybe 50 years down the road, someone will do it.
Right. So that's all the notes I really have on Jerry, but also I threw in a lot of other notes. I don't have anything for, like, the rest of his family at all.
No, I don't think that there really is. I mean, there's not much to talk about, really. One of his daughters had an asthma attack, and I kind of thought, well, maybe this is going to figure in more. It doesn't really.
Mm-mm.
Like, they get the albuterol, and that's it.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Would she have been safe from the zombies, or is asthma not? Asthma's probably not.
I don't know.
Severe enough for the zombies to ignore.
Right.
It. We don't know. We don't explore that, so who knows?
No, we have no idea.
Yeah, and then a lot of the other characters and side characters I've talked about with Tomas and a lot of the soldiers and the cameos, which weren't really cameos at the time as much as just like, oh, look, that actor went on to do some great things later.
This was just like a stepping stone into that.
Yeah. Really just random notes. It's not The Walking Dead because they used the Z word in this movie a lot.
Oh, gosh, in memos. In memos, someone used it. That's why Jurgen said that Israel got the heads up, is because there was a communication that came out of India where they used the word zombie, like it was zombie.
Yeah, because it's become cliche at this point, because The Walking Dead did it and so many do it, where it's like, oh, if you're going to do a zombie movie or series, it's going to be some alternate timeline universe where zombie movies and books and comics and stories never existed, so people don't know what they're dealing with. And it's like, right. I kind of like sometimes to see things like this, where it's like it starts happening and people are like, I've seen Dawn of the Dead, this is fucking zombies. Like, we know what
we know what this is. Even the doctor, the virologist or the doctor who ends up shooting himself, even before they end up going to South Korea, he's sitting around a table with everyone, and someone even says, it's zombies. Like, this is zombies. But you know that no one wants to accept that, because it's still, even though people are saying that's what it is, there are always those people that don't want to accept it. I mean, it takes me back to Chud and how people didn't want to accept that there were creatures in the sewers. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like,
The only other notes I have, just two other little notes about, like, things we learn or see about other countries and kind of how things are going there. We hear from the CIA, ex-CIA guy that's being held in South Korea. He mentions that North Korea had the teeth of their entire population removed.
That sounds,
which is definitely one way of handling it. Yeah. And then also learn, and that's why they end up going there, that Israel is the only country, as of yet, untouched by the plague, as they had somehow managed to wall themselves up before it hit. Mm-hmm. And so when they go to Jerusalem, I like Jurgen, the guy there, where, his line I really liked is, every human being we save is one less zombie to fight.
Yes.
Which I was like, yeah, this dude has the right idea for sure. This fictional version of Israel is doing a great job of taking care of people and those around it. And that's all I'll say. But yeah, that's until the zombies start piling onto each other to get over the walls. They didn't see that one coming. So much for the whole last place untouched by the zombie virus thing. No, I do have a couple other zombie notes. Just a couple little things, and the zombies just leaping off the roof after the helicopter. It's raining. No, I'm not going to do that.
But I loved those things, because between that and the zombies climbing on top of each other to get over the wall, those were things that when I see them, it's like, okay, yeah, I know this. Mm-hmm. It's for sure World War Z. Like,
yes, again, with Israel, with Jerusalem, the zombies heard the jam session going on inside the walls, and they climb over because they want to jump in and do some crowd surfing. They're ready to party.
Yeah.
And then the zombies just moving and flowing through the streets like a flood of water is quite an interesting visual. And then just the last little note was the zombie CGI. Not the worst.
No.
Not the best by any means, but it's not the worst. I've seen worse. It has a few rough moments for sure in this movie, but it's decent enough. I was like, they get the job done. You can tell that like the big swarms are CGI, and then certain zombies, when they focus on just one zombie that's like totally CGI, those are the bad moments. But
yeah, better not to do that.
Yeah, but overall, it could be a lot worse.
Oh, definitely. We have seen worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things. There was a point where when they were in the city and getting into the Winnebago, outside of the Winnebago, there's this cop standing there and he has his gun pulled and he sees one of the zombies attacking a civilian and he's not sure which person to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that probably have to shoot both of them because at that point it's too late. And then Jerry, when they're in the store and he rescues his wife from being attacked, and he shoots the guy, and a cop comes in, and he thinks the cop's gonna, like, take his gun and arrest him or talk to whatever. And the cop just runs by and goes to get supplies like
he's like,
else.
You shot that man. I don't care. I need baby food.
Yeah. The fact that basically, what was it? The ship that they go to in the middle of the ocean that's 200 miles out into the Atlantic Ocean, that's really that's where you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Far away from everything. That's where you go. You stay on the ship. Also, airplanes. Airplanes, where is it?
Airplanes definitely seem like the place you don't go.
Yeah, airplanes are definitely the place that you don't go. Airplanes are a great way, though, to have situations like this, because if you look at, we've had snakes on a plane where the snakes go crazy, and I did get a snakes on a plane moment when Jerry throws the grenade in the hole in the plane. There was the hole in the side of the plane, and it sucked all the zombies out. That gave me a snakes on a plane moment. We seem to have that, though, with these airplanes. Like, there's a virus. Sometimes it's a virus on a plane. Or snakes, or whatever. Planes definitely are not good. They're not a place to be when this happens. That's for sure. And I think that is everything that I had. I kept writing down some of the quotes because I thought that they were interesting. Mm-hmm. But I think we've really done them all.
Nice. Yeah.
I think we did it. Yeah.
It was fun to talk. Again, we kind of focus more on like just the through line of what he's doing. Lots of other little things. But yeah, it's a fun movie, and I'm glad we finally got around to doing it.
Me too.
And there goes the feedback phone. So now we can finally get around to see what other people maybe think about it.
I know, I'm curious.
Pick that up. All right. We came back from the feedback phone, and yeah, we got a lot of stuff today.
Yeah.
It's World War Z, so of course we're going to have some stuff on there, but then we asked you for some extra looking forward, some movies that you guys wanted us to cover, thought that you would, movies you'd like to hear about or hear us talk about, or that you think we would like. So we added that on too, and so we got a full feedback phone.
We do. I thought when I saw all of this that maybe our voicemail would be full, but it wasn't. So we can handle more feedback, guys. Keep it coming. So first up, we'll do our World War Z feedback. Our first one is from Kelly, who says, "This is one of my favorites. I found it terrifying when it came out. I don't think I had seen much with fast zombies before watching this. I loved the action in it and wanted more of the science and story."
Yeah. We hear from Alma, who says, Yes, this is one of my favorite zombie apocalypse movies. It is a terrifying movie because of how fast people turn and how violently fast they are. Can you imagine if this actually happened? I'd be so dead so fast, mostly because I'm so slow. LOL. I think this movie is the only one where the zombies pile up hella high, which is another scary thought. I love the part when the scientist guy said Mother Nature is a serial killer. And lastly, At the end, we are left with a bit of hope. I don't recall any other ZA movie having any hope for humanity. Looking forward to the podcast.
Yes, I love that quote too.
Yeah.
When I was in Montreal, it was kind of interesting because the airport was packed because you have to go through customs and everything, and I couldn't help but think, wow, what a shit show this would be if we had a zombie outbreak.
Uh-huh.
So the next one is from Maureen. She says, really love this movie, flaws and all, but for some reason, I have to fast forward scenes when he is in Korea right after he calls home. Something about his phone ringing while on the bike really bothers me. It's one of those movies where you say, I love that scene for about 10 scenes. But you can tell they had to work very hard to bring it together. Don't think they could have made it work without Brad Pitt's skill. He sold everything. Kind of hoping you two rank your favorite scenes. It's a challenge. My top 3. Number 3, Escape from Israel. Number 2, Philadelphia Escape. And 1, the Cardiff Lab. But close and could be different on different days. I don't know which scene would be my favorite. I do love the escape scenes.
Yeah. I think, because she said them, I'm gonna, kind of play off of those, because, I think. So, Philadelphia, she says. I remember earlier we were trying to figure out where they were at earlier, because we were thinking New York or something, so maybe it is supposed to be Philadelphia. Maybe she's for sure on that. So if that's the case, I think just kind of off the top of my head, and like she said, they could be different on different days. So, for right now, I'm just thinking about it. I think, number 3 is probably the Cardiff Lab.
Yes, I'd agree.
The B-Wing and everything, I think, is 3. 2 is going to be that initial escape for when they're in the streets because of the seconds, the count of seconds with the toy is really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say my number 1 is the most ridiculous thing is when the doctor shoots himself, and then just the whole abandoned airport zombie situation that goes around that, I think, is my favorite.
Yeah, you mean the part that she has to fast forward through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All of that. I really like that too. That would be on my top 3. I think my number 3 would have to be Philadelphia. Number 2 would be Korea and everything that went down there, like you were just saying. Number 1, Escape from Israel. Just crazy to see the zombies climbing on top of each other, running through the streets. There was a lot of tension. It was nuts. And I was all on board for all of it. Yeah.
All of them are interchangeable in a lot of ways, though. Yeah, because there's, like you said, there's a lot of really great scenes.
Yeah.
In different parts.
Yeah, the whole part, too, in the building, when they're in New Jersey, in the building, trying to escape the helicopter part. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. So much.
Yeah. All right, the next one comes from us. Yes, we have our own feedback. All right, the next one comes to us from Danielle. Says, I love this movie. I enjoy the zombies that are faster and seem more intelligent than we see in The Walking Dead, which makes them more terrifying. I've never read the book, but plan to. I wish we had gotten a Walking Dead scene of our heroes traveling up the road on bicycles. LOL. The scene of the city falling because the refugees were singing and being loud was a great scene. And also sort of ridiculous that the crowds weren't being controlled better. And man, I'm having trouble tonight. The scene of the city falling because the refugees were singing and being loud was a great scene, but also sort of ridiculous that the crowds weren't being controlled better than that in what seemed to be a fairly well-organized city. I don't have in-depth notes, but I watch World War Z at least once a year and look forward to your coverage.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I wondered about that too, because it seems like Israel had been so strategic in being a safe place that it seems like they would have had that better controlled. I have to agree with that.
And then with what you said about the book, I do highly recommend you read it. It's a very interesting read. But if you're not already aware of it, which you may be, don't go into the book expecting it to be anything like this movie. It's a very loose connection and comparison. It's very much its own thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about how it might be cool to do an anthology series based on the book, and I really think that would be good. Like, it could be really interesting. But I do worry that the whole zombie thing has been played out now and people just aren't into it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. So Harrison says, great cast and a couple of amazing set pieces like the opening in Philly and the Israel sequence, but it ignored parts of the book that would have been great on the screen. They didn't depict the event that turned around the war, which was so key to the whole story and would have been really exciting to see. Ultimately, it took out the war and made it into more of a typical zombie film. Despite some great aspects, I thought it was an opportunity lost. I think they plan to make a number of films. And so that might have been something that was going to take place in the second or third film. But of course, we've talked about it. They're pretty much dead in the water right now.
Yeah. And then lastly, for the World War Z feedback, we've got one from Catherine. Says, I reread World War Z just a few months ago so I could follow along with the Podcastica book club episodes, but I haven't rewatched the movie since it was released. I remember being pretty critical of the book differences back then, but I really enjoyed this rewatch. Jerry watching that guy transform in only a few seconds while trying to keep his family safe was a great way to show us how capable Jerry is and how dangerous the world has become without a character just explaining it to us. I'm glad the story didn't have the family in constant danger. I kept thinking of the movie Greenland.
Gosh.
But more about Jerry's determination to save humanity to ensure the survival of his family.
I have to agree with that, too. Yeah, Greenland had me on the edge of my seat almost every second. It was almost like too much tension at times.
There is still a sequel in the pipeline for that one. That's still in the works, as far as I know.
Yeah, I really want that. I want that one. There's also Attack the Block, too. There's a bunch. I want them to make them so we can talk about them, because they're going to be great. So we did get feedback with some suggestions for movies that we could cover. Lonnie says The Reaping and Skeleton Key. Oh my gosh. Okay, both of those are good. I've seen them. They're great.
Got one from Alma. She says, Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, wink, wink. You just might be getting your wish sooner than you think.
Yeah.
Won't say too much, but it'll be something special around that one. But I think, but keep an ear out, because it may be happening sooner than you realize.
Yeah, something a little bit different. So Catherine says Congo, and I feel like Catherine has suggested this one before. Or maybe not, because my feedback might be a book. It's not that good, but just a childhood favorite. I love the idea of continuing the Sharknado series to replace Tremors episodes. The original Leprechaun would be fun, and I love everything Stephen King. Children of the Corn has plenty of running. That's a good one. Christine might be a stretch, but Firestarter is pretty much all running for their lives. I don't remember much about the original, but the remake I watched recently, and it was better than I expected. I haven't seen them, but if covered, I would totally watch the Thanksgiving sequel and more Camp Cretaceous. Okay.
All right.
Oh, man. Turkey. More turkey.
I have seen Thanksgiving 3, which is the direct sequel to Thanksgiving. There is no 2, but part of the plot of 3 is that there was a 2, but then it got deleted from Mankind because it was so bad or something. I watched it once. It's a shit show.
Well, Peg, sometimes we do love a good shit show here.
Yeah.
But we do already have our Thanksgiving episode planned, because there was a great movie that came out that we're going to cover.
Yeah, this year we're set. We'll see. Never say never. No. And then Camp Cretaceous. We got to reach back out to Greg and see if we can do another season. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have from Laura, who says, Renfield, which...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
Me either, but I want to.
I do. I mean, Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage. Just both Nicholas is doing all their Nicholas things.
Oh man.
Should be.
It looks good.
Looks great.
I've seen the preview, but oh man.
So, yeah, I think that one's probably a high contender for in the somewhat near future. Keep an eye out.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got tons of feedback, which we love. And if you'd like to submit feedback on past, present, or even future episodes, you can do so by finding us on Facebook and Instagram at Run for Your Lives Podcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, we're there. You can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links that you're ever going to need. And if you feel so inclined, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that's the best way to share the love, get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Definitely appreciate it. And, of course, speaking about sharing the love, got to give those shout-outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us, right here in Podcastica. Lots of great stuff with the cast of us still covering The Ones Who Live, the Walking Dead spinoff with Rick and Michonne, which has been phenomenal. Honestly, I'm loving it, and I'm sad that there's only one episode left this weekend. Yeah, I'm very curious, but very scared to see how they wrap this up. But yeah, it's been great. Jason and Lucy have had incredible coverage, so make sure to go check out the cast of us to hear their coverage. Lots of stuff going on between them covering the episodes initially, doing their feedback episodes for everything that's sent into them, and also having Sunday nights the live reaction videos right after they're done airing on YouTube, on the Podcastica YouTube channel. So lots of great Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live to check out there. And then lots of other good stuff as well. The rewatch stuff. Ted Lasso, they are now in season 3 on the Ted Lasso Revisited podcast on Revisited. Ben and Kristen jumping into episode 1 of season 3. Smells like Mean Spirit. And just love Ted Lasso. They're already in the final season. It's gone so fast. And I think I know what they're doing next. I'm not going to say anything because I don't know if anything's publicly, officially out there yet, but I think I know where Revisited is going after Ted Lasso. So stay tuned, and I'll let you know for sure as soon as it's known and I can say for sure. And then on the Still Slaying Buffy podcast, they are taking a break from Buffy this week as they had Jason on to talk about Heathers, the movie there.
Ooh,
so
such a good one.
You can definitely check that out. And then there's another episode of Welcome to the Apocalypse. It actually came out like last week, so we're kind of in like a between week, off week, but we had like a weird recording thing last week, so we couldn't really plug the most current, and so we'll do that now, is go back and check out the last week's release. Welcome to the Apocalypse. Again, that is the improv comedy podcast here on Podcastica. Randy and Jenny and Rob just having fun with their characters. They have all kinds of different guests and stuff on that do different things, and it's great. Just improv comedy podcast about weird, fun, fantastical characters surviving the apocalypse together and all the shenanigans that go along with it. It's great.
It's so fun.
Margaret forever.
Margaret forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, you know what? I've warmed up to Angry Adam so much. It took me a while, but I'm there. Finally.
Nice. Yeah, it's been great. And then lastly, outside of Podcastica, we always give some love to our friends over at TV Podcast Industries, the workhorses of the podcast universe, always doing so much stuff. Right now, they've got 3 series that they're covering between FX's Shogun, which has been, so good. Invincible is back. The second half of season 2 is here. It's running. It's been really, really good. I still need to watch this week's episode, but man, Invincible, love it. And then, of course, staying in that animated realm on Disney Plus, the Star Wars series, The Bad Batch, which I'm catching up on, getting through there, which is just fun. Disney Plus. Love the Star Wars stuff. Gotta get caught up because The Acolyte is coming soon, the next couple of months. So be looking for stuff for that when that comes out too, because I know TV podcast industries will be on it, and our Star Wars TV cast here, podcast, I'm sure we'll have some people covering that as well. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But aside from all that, you can always come back here next week to Run for Your Lives. We'll have something fresh and fun for you. What we doing?
So when a young woman is stranded on a remote island, she soon discovers that she's not alone. While facing dwindling resources and nowhere to escape, she must summon all her courage to survive the relentless onslaught of the new threat. We are covering the 2019 film Sweetheart.
Yeah. Kind of a out of left field, different one that just kind of popped up randomly, and we were like, let's take a shot on something neither of us really knew anything about, but I think it lends to a really fun watch, so hopefully you'll check it out. I know I rented it on Amazon Prime, like $4, so it's available there, and I think YouTube is kind of a similar thing, so you can do that as well. Easy to, like, cheap rental. It's a quick one. It's like an hour and 22 minutes. It's super quick, but it's a fun watch, so if you have the time, I recommend check it out so we can get some feedback from you guys on that one as well.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we have reached the end of our episode. Thanks to everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pate.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.